You make a lot of people very upset, and I wonder whether
I make a small minority of very noisy people very upset.
I wonder
but
whether
I
you
make
figure
a lot of people very happy.
Oh,
and I would say that's like 95% of people.
Why you strike me as angry, and I wonder why you're angry.
I guess I'm not sure why I strike you as angry.
You don't feel angry?
At the moment? Not particularly.
Well, okay, generally?
No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, most of the places that I go, look, I can tell you what my life is like. You can tell me if you think this would be a life that would make you angry. Okay, everywhere I go, I'm stopped by people, at least a dozen times a day. I would say 5 times an hour. They're often young men, but not always. Almost all of them are exceptionally polite when they approach me. They'd like to have a picture, they'd like to talk to me, and they'd like to tell me why their life is substantially better since they've encountered my work. And I've gone to, I don't know, a dozen countries, maybe more, 15 countries, and talked to at least 10,000 people who've told me that story over and over. And so you imagine what your life would be like if everywhere you went, what people did was come up to you and thank you because what they did helped you not commit suicide and get out of your addiction and stop being alcoholic and take responsibility for your life and try to put your family together, and that things are much, much better, and that they're often in tears. It's not something that makes you angry. It's something that makes you hurt.
It's not making you angry now?
It's hurtful to see how much need there is for that in society, and how unfortunate it is that people need such a small amount of encouragement to lift themselves out of those sorts of places of hell. And it is irritating to me, I would say, that men in particular, young men, have been discouraged to the point where that's such a common occurrence, when they need so little encouragement to move forward in a productive and progressive direction.
I accept that. What surprises me is that the context of it is a context in which the me is stressed, and the more traditional questions of how you fit in, how you cope with an evolving society, rather than being able to encouraging people to stand back and go, actually, the way society is evolving is wrong, and we can step back from it and we can stop it. It seems to me there's a nostalgia that you're offering people there.
You insist upon this idea that the me's at the center of this. So I talked to a young man a month ago who had stopped his heroin addiction about a year ago. And it was as a consequence of watching my lectures. And he said he's had 12 of his friends do the same thing. And I insist continually that if you're treating yourself properly, you're doing it in a way that also benefits your family and also benefits the community. There's a strong communitarian ethos in there, and it has nothing to do with what would you call it, a focused individualism.
Yeah. But what I wonder, reading the book 12 Rules for Life, is where's respect? The book is a me Bible. I can't think of another book of its kind, a self-help book or a religious book for that matter, that doesn't include as one of its rules respect for other people. You haven't done that, and I assume it's deliberate.
I don't think that that's true in the least. I mean, one of the things that distinguishes my work, say, from the work of someone like Ayn Rand, is that I make the case continually that there's no such thing as atomized individuality. And so, for example, if you're going to treat yourself properly, which you should, you have to treat yourself as an iterated process across time properly. So you today, you tomorrow, you next week, you next month, you when you're old. You're already a community if you're going to treat yourself properly. And if you treat yourself properly, you're going to take into account your family, and you're also going to take into account your community, all simultaneously. But the right place to start is with the things that are within your local control, and there's some humility in that. It certainly has nothing to do with instantaneous self-gratification or selfishness.
You must have been aware it was an unusual thing to do, though, to not make that point more clearly. The other thing that's missing is service. Most similar books to yours would find a way to say in their list of 12 things, or whatever the list was, would include a way that was explicitly about service. You say late in the book, when you're listing a list of principles for living by, you say, "What shall I do with the poor man's plight? Strive through right example to lift his broken heart." What that says is you don't help him, but you show him what a better person you are so that he'll want to copy you.
No, you show him what a better person is, not what a better person you are.
Well, it's the same thing, isn't it?
Not necessarily.
Strive through right example. You're saying right example in your own personal life. I'm better than you, and you need to be like me.
No, that you're an example of something that's better. And I don't, for example, when I'm lecturing, assume that I'm better than the people that I'm lecturing to, which is part of the reason why people respond positively to my lectures. I assume that we all have plenty to learn. And Rule 5, for example, in my book, which is about raising children, is all about service. And so is Rule 6, which is to clean up your room before you criticize the world. And so the idea that the book is somehow a paean to individualism in the same way that, say, Ayn Rand's philosophy is just completely inappropriate. It's
you don't
not
think
the
it
case.
could be? You don't think it could be read that way?
I think
Clearly
it can be
not.
read in all sorts of
Okay.
ways, but that's certainly not the aim of it.
I wonder whether this is an example of something else that people criticise you for, that in talking about Me Too and talking about victims, you've moved the debate to an extreme. There are false accusations. But that's not a very useful, is that a very useful place really to have the
I don't think
argument?
I have moved the debate there. What I've done mostly is to tell men that they should act honorably in relationship to their sexual relationships with women. And I'm quite a traditionalist in that manner. And so I think that the best way to regulate sexual behavior in general is to return to or to value long-term committed monogamous relationships.
Yes.
And that's basically the fundamental solution. And it has
Understand
very
that.
little to do with Me Too, and I haven't commented much about Me Too in general.
When you do, and when you have, there's a subtext which is a completely different message that you send to people. It sends signals that women are liars, that men's sexual behaviour isn't offensive, is never offensive, that it's a plot. Those messages are carried as subtexts.
What evidence do you have
Well,
that that's the sort of thing that I've put forward? I've said almost nothing about Me Too, except for the danger of believing the victim automatically,
Well,
and
then-
that's obviously a danger. So I have nothing against the Me Too movement, apart from the fact that it has the proclivity to go too far, like most spontaneous mob movements.
Yes, but defining it as the movement that goes too far is
A
doing
movement
that.
that goes too far.
Yes, but that's why settle on that as the definition of the Me Too movement
I
rather than
haven't.
something. Well, okay.
And-
You also told Joe Rogan, if you're a young, because you wanted to clarify what you meant.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a young man and all the women are rejecting you, then who's got the problem? It's not all the women. That's a very bad road to go down.
Yes, that's
And
for sure.
I imagine a lot of people would have been very happy to hear you say that.
I've said it repeatedly.
Indeed.
I've talked to men continually about
Right.
the fact that
So,
they need to grow up and accept
Over a
responsibility.
6-month process, we had that series of statements from you. Speaking clearly is one of your 12 rules. And I wonder why it is that in a situation like that and in many other situations, what actually happens is that you sow confusion.
I don't sow confusion. The journalists that interview me sow confusion.
Well,
The
why do you
woman who
think-
wrote the
why
New
do you
York
think
Times
that
article.
happens? That,
Oh,
that
for
you
her,
get misinterpreted in your views so often?
with her, it was absolutely clear. I spent 2 days with her, and we spent 30 seconds talking about enforced monogamy, and she's a very smart woman, and she knew exactly what I meant and chose to make that the centerpiece of the article for I would say, to attract attention in a way that was completely inappropriate.
But you know, it's not just the journalists from the New York Times. You know that this happens over and over and over.
That's
You-
because the journalists read each other's journalism, and they
Okay,
don't read
so
the
the
books,
fault,
and
the
they
fault
don't
is
watch
not
what I'm saying.
never with you. The fault
Well,
is
no, the fault is sometimes with me. I mean,
Okay,
it's not
right.
like I always say everything perfectly.